Hello, Strength Matters. Welcome to Whiteboard Wednesdays, an opportunity for us to offer as much as we can in terms of training principles and training concepts to help you become the best version of yourself. I am Phil McDougall.
And I'm Scott Olson. Thanks for joining us. Today's topic is cardiovascular capacity. And what does this even mean?
So we've put this as one of the 10 components of athleticism. We think it's very important. What is it? It's basically your blood's and your heart and lungs' ability to deliver oxygen to the working muscles. It's kind of VO2 max. We wanted to make it as simple as possible so that I always think so my mum would understand. Sorry to keep using your mum. But they're both the same thing. VO2 max basically means the amount of oxygen that can be delivered to the working muscles in 1 minute.
Yep. At maximum intensity.
Yeah. So basically that's kind of what it is, but that's more on a technical term. Probably why do we need it would probably help define it a little bit better, and that is, so if you feel your heart pumping out of your neck after climbing a flight of stairs, that's because you're deficient in cardiovascular capacity. I think that's probably, if you find yourself feeling a little bit faint, getting out of breath, and you can feel your pulse going crazy, that's without having done much work, that's a deficiency in cardiovascular capacity. For the most part in my life, this is kind of what I've been best at. So I've got a ton of ingredients for increasing cardiovascular capacity. But before I kind of start touching on that, what is baseline? So let's just take our 80-year-old category.
Yeah.
What do you think is a baseline? What our grandmothers need, cardiovascular capacity wise. Why would they need to deliver oxygen to their muscles?
So in terms of why, it's so they don't pass out. Let's be realistic at that age. If their system is not coordinated enough, breath, movement, and ability to provide energy to their muscles, passing out is a very real risk, and falling can lead to a tremendous amount of injuries. But in terms of what is, let's say, minimum level, we live in a very urban world here. We're here in San Diego. Being able to walk across the parking lot is a very reasonable expectation from a cardiovascular capacity level for an 80-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that concept of, it's not just the activity, it's not necessarily an intense activity, it's the ability to have that activity be prolonged, to actually get up that flight of stairs, get up the next flight of stairs, without feeling lightheaded or needing to take those breaks. And here in America, in fact, across many sections of our country, we have more and more people with respiratory issues, pulmonary issues, that have a lot of trouble with this issue because they have lost their system's ability to effectively provide oxygen to their muscle tissue. So athletically, we train it, and when we start thinking of base levels for a 20-year-old or a 40-year-old, cardiovascular capacity shows up very quickly in the concept of rowing.
Absolutely, yeah.
The ERG2. Yeah. It's the gem of VO2 max testing and just seeing what we're capable of. But this is also this concept of work capacity. It gets tied into, well, can I pick up an object and carry it for a long while? Mm-hmm. Can I pick up my suitcases? And the taxis in Paris have been on strike yet again, so I have to carry my suitcases to the metro. Perfect. Can I achieve that or not?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, exactly. So just in terms of real day life, in London, how many times does the underground stop working, and you have to all of a sudden carry everything or by bike or whatever, that's work capacity. Work capacity is tied in so closely with cardiovascular capacity. In terms of training, just taking up the concept too, that's why in the new Strength Matters curriculum we've put in the 500 meter concept to row, because it's kind of a perfect test of cardiovascular capacity. You could argue that perfect test of cardiovascular capacity is maybe 1,000 or 2,000 meters. 500 meters is a little bit more on the power side. But yeah, in the Marines, they used to test our cardiovascular capacity with a 1,600 meters run, best effort, 1 mile, 1.5 miles, sorry. 1.5 mile, 2.4 kilometers. Get my distances mixed up. In order, now, we could easily spend the next half hour talking about this and get quite excited, but how to train cardiovascular capacity is basically governed by how good your circulatory system is at removing lactic acid. Because the lactic acid builds up from the energy producing reactions that are going on inside the muscles. Brain picks up lactic acid, thinks, oh, we're being poisoned, we need to slow down, and that's when the little voice inside your head says, slow down. So if any of you have done a 500 meter row or a mile run or best effort, you all know what that little voice sounds like. So in terms of getting better at whether it be a mile run or a 500 meter row, the trick is getting your body better at removing lactic acid, and that all comes down to intervals. I'll happily go into this in a lot more detail another time,
and this is that big detail. Intervals includes a rest period. So for the people that want to train it seriously, what they're really looking at is not just the can they achieve X amount of force production. They're looking at, well, I took a minute break. Can it be 50 second? Can it be 40 second? There's so many clever ways to design the interval concept that really stress in a positive way, challenge our system so that we can make great improvements with cardiovascular capacity.
Obviously we can talk about this for a lot longer, but for the sake of this short and sharp Whiteboard Wednesday, how this fits into the other 10 components. If somebody's deficient in cardiovascular capacity, let's take somebody who likes to lift weights, which no shortage of those maybe watching or listening maybe. Say you like your deadlifting, you like your strength training. I don't know how many times I've seen people who like lifting weights getting completely gassed when it comes to, let's say, passing the Strength Matters level 1 swing test, which is also massive on cardiovascular capacity. We're asking you to recover from 10 heavy swings in 10 to 15 seconds. And then do another set and another set. So that's kind of power, endurance, and cardiovascular capacity all tied in. So I think for people who like strength training, this is definitely something that you should work on to balance yourselves out. Probably something that a lot of yogis that I've had the pleasure of knowing could work on. Pilates people. And
so I'll just share this concept. There's a lot of suffering, let's be honest, that can happen in this world. The brain likes to associate the challenge of being stressed on a cardiovascular level with the concept of threat. There's a strong association. When the body starts feeling this burn, feeling this push, there's a lot of warning signals going on in the brain, and that can translate for a lot of us as a sense of discomfort, pain, suffering. And there are totally ways to work around that and even change the mindset around those sensations, but that's probably why most people avoid this. It just feels like too much effort. And so whether you train it like a lion and really dive into the science of improving it, or even just train it with a little bit more gentle focus of, you know what, I'm going to go a little bit farther today, a little bit farther tomorrow. There are so many different ways to get profoundly better at this concept that we can all benefit from.
Yep.
Well, thanks again for joining us for Whiteboard Wednesday.
Thanks for watching.